Intro, there are stories we forget the moment they end, and yes, te yeri stories that stay with us for decades, haunting us, shaping us, reminding us that not everything in this world can be explained. Today, I'll share true accounts told by ordinary people who experienced something extraordinary and terrifying. These stories span childhood memories, strange encounters, family tragedies, and moments when the boundary between the living and the dead seemed to break. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and let's begin. Story 1. The hand under the bed. I was around 5 or 6 years old, visiting my aunt in the city. My older cousin loved to scare me. She'd hide under the bed, grab my feet or hands, and laugh while I screamed. One day, I lay on the bed with my arm hanging off the edge. Suddenly, a hand grabbed my wrist. I laughed, thinking it was my cousin. I even started talking to her, but she said nothing. And then the bedroom door opened. My cousin walked in. Even now, almost 30 years later, I still can't sleep with my hands or feet hanging off the bed. Story 2. The tiny old woman. When I was 3, I was hospitalized with measles. I remember the room clearly, narrow like a train compartment, with metal hospital beds and glass walls. One day, bored, I watched the foot of my bed when something began moving the mattress. Something was crawling up. Then I saw it. A tiny old woman, no taller than 20 centimeters, squeezed through the metal bars and ran toward me on the blanket. She called out in a thin voice, "Alenashka, where is my Alenashka?" I froze in terror. When she reached me, I grabbed her head with both hands and squeezed as hard as I could. She screamed, spun around, and fled the way she came. My mother never believed me. She called it fever delirium. But even today, I know what I saw. Story 3. The girl in the hallway. My mother once got up at night to use the bathroom. In the dim light, she saw me standing by the door, smiling silently. She asked why I wasn't in bed. But my bedroom door was open, and inside she could clearly see me sleeping peacefully in my bed. She whispered every prayer she knew. The smiling figure vanished. Story 4. Aunt Emma. In the attic as a child, I played at a friend's house that always felt strange and unsettling. One gloomy autumn day, we heard footsteps coming from the attic above us. I asked her what that noise was. "Oh, that's Aunt Emma," she said casually. She explained that years ago her mother's sister Emma had hanged herself in the attic after stealing things and being caught. Now, she said, Emma sometimes returned, searching for the things she had hidden. Then my friend suggested we go upstairs and check. We climbed to the attic door. It was locked with a heavy padlock, but the noises inside grew louder, clearer. We ran screaming out of the house and never played together again. Story 5. The thing on the ceiling. As a teenager, I lay on my bed reading when I noticed something dark in the corner of the ceiling. At first it looked like a huge spider, but it wasn't shaped like anything familiar. I stared at it and realized it was about to jump. I leapt off the bed, and a split second later, the black mass landed right where my head had been. My mom rushed in, but by then it was gone. We tore apart the entire bed. Nothing. To this day, I don't know what it was. It wasn't an insect. It had no shape, just darkness. Story 6. My father's last words. My father died when I was 8, on Easter Sunday. The night before, he spoke with my mother about ordinary things. Then suddenly he said, "Tomorrow I will die." We laughed it off. He was healthy, young, full of life. The next day, a blood clot reached his heart. He was gone instantly. My mother and I still wonder how he knew. Story 7. The knock at the door. When I was 10, my uncle passed away. On the 39th day after his death, I woke early, around 5 a.m. Everyone else was gone from the house except me and a small kitten sleeping beside me. Then I heard 2 knocks on the door. I asked who was there. No answer. Through the wide cracks in the old wooden door, I should have been able to see a silhouette. There was no one. The kitten suddenly began growling, hissing, and clawing at the door, as if something invisible was trying to come inside. The next day, the 40th day after my uncle's death, the kitten suddenly collapsed at the doorstep and died. Sometimes I wonder, did he take my place? Story 8. The man in the corridor when I was 5. We lived in a long communal building with a shared hallway. One day, returning from getting water, I saw a strange man standing at the far end. He began walking toward us. Something about him terrified me. I pushed my parents into the apartment and slammed the door. Through the peephole, I saw him standing silently outside, then pushing against the door. He eventually ran off. My parents never believed me, but I wasn't dreaming. Story 9. The Snow Queen, my sister and I, were in our shared bedroom with our grandmother. Suddenly the door opened and a woman walked in, pale, tall, dressed like a snow queen. We screamed and hid under the blanket. The woman sat on the bed next to our grandmother and spoke quietly with her. After the woman vanished, our grandmother said calmly, "That was my death. She came to talk. Don't tell anyone." Our parents never saw anyone enter the room. Story 10. The hand from the floor, my grandmother's house, had a small hole in the floor for the cat to pass through from the cellar. One morning, while the whole family was in the kitchen and living room, including the cat, I crouched to peek into the dark opening. A hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. I screamed. The hand released me and disappeared instantly. There was no way any family member could have been down there. The cellar door was covered, heavy, and untouched. To this day, I still avoid walking near that spot. Story 11. The woman under the streetlight one summer night in the village. After the club closed at 11:30 p.m., we stood outside chatting. Someone mentioned an old woman named Vesna, a witch, people said, who was close to death. Right then, a naked young woman walked under the streetlight. Everyone stared, shocked. The boys whistled and ran toward her, but when they got close, she was no longer young. She was old, frail, barely clothed, reaching out with bony hands, begging for help to get home. Everyone ran. 2 days later, Vesna died. Some memories fade with time, but others they stay with us forever. Because deep down, we know they weren't dreams. They weren't imagination. They were moments when something from the other side stepped into our world. If you want more real stories like these, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for the next one.